You're tuned to the Nowhere Signal. What you're about to hear was never meant to be found.
Jordan Miller hated Tuesday nights. There was nothing especially wrong with them, they just had a way of dragging on. Longer than Mondays. Heavier than Wednesdays. Maybe it was the way the office emptied by 5:15 and left him alone, glowing in the pale blue buzz of his computer monitor. Maybe it was that damn vending machine that always ate his dollar right before the final email came through. Or maybe it was Route 32. He stepped out of the lobby at 9:47 p.m. Sharp, tying his scarf a little too tight, hands deep in pockets, backpack slung lazily over one shoulder. A few taxis passed, none with their lights on. The city was cold, like it was trying to forget itself. He reached the corner just in time to see the headlights round the curve, Route 32 late night downtown. It hissed to a stop, doors squealing open like an afterthought. The driver never looked up. He never did. Jordan flashed his pass and moved down the aisle, scanning for a clean seat. There were only 5 others aboard. A teenage girl in a varsity jacket, asleep with her head against the window. A man in a suit gripping a briefcase like it held his last breath. A woman with curls down to her waist, humming a tune that didn't match the silence. A construction worker with one boot off, staring blankly at his sock. And an old man at the very back, whispering to himself in a language Jordan didn't recognize. He took a seat in the middle, next to a cracked window. Pulled out his earbuds. No signal. Again. So he just listened to the engine groan and leaned his head against the glass. The bus pulled into traffic, merging smoothly into the dull rhythm of downtown's edge. Stores shuttered. Neon flickers. Posters peeling off bus stops, flapping like they wanted to be anywhere else. Jordan didn't notice anything wrong until they passed 4th Street without slowing down. He blinked, sat up. His stop was 4th and Layton. He pressed the stop button. A ding. No change. He waited. Pressed again. Still nothing. He looked up at the driver. No reaction. No glance. Just 2 hands on the wheel and a shadowed face beneath the green cabin light. Jordan twisted in his seat to look around. No one else had moved. The humming woman still hummed. The briefcase man didn't blink. The old man at the back whispered louder. "Hey, excuse me?" Jordan called forward. No answer. Just the sound of the tires hitting uneven asphalt as they crossed into a part of the city he'd never seen this empty. Then, suddenly, the streetlights changed. Not flickered, changed. Instead of yellow halos, they glowed a pale bluish white, like moonlight filtered through fog. Jordan looked out the window again. There were buildings, yes. But the storefronts were blank. No names. No signs. No reflections. The bus rolled past a park that didn't exist yesterday. A fountain sat in the middle, spraying water upward in slow motion, like gravity was still deciding if it should work here. He turned back around. "Hey, driver. I missed my stop, can you let me off?" No response. Not even a blink. Jordan stood and walked halfway up the aisle. The woman stopped humming. Her eyes followed him, but she didn't move her head. He slowed. The briefcase man began tapping a single finger on his lap, like he was counting seconds that no longer existed. Jordan reached the driver's seat barrier. "Hey! Look, I really need to." The driver turned, just slightly. Enough for Jordan to see the collar of his jacket. There was no face. Not like a mask or shadow. Just smooth, blank skin from chin to forehead. No eyes. No mouth. No anything. Jordan stumbled back a step. The bus kept driving. He returned to his seat slowly, heart thudding. He grabbed his phone. Still no signal. The time, 3:03 a.m. That couldn't be right. He'd gotten on just before 10. He opened his messages. They loaded. Then vanished. The screen dimmed. 3:03 a.m. Outside, the streets were empty. No people. No lights in the windows. Just empty chairs on porches and curtains blowing inward, as if the wind were moving in reverse. The bus passed a billboard. It had Jordan's face on it. Not a photo. A painting. Realistic. But warped, like someone had drawn him from memory in a dream. Underneath, "Remember Tio, stay seated." He felt his stomach drop. He looked at the passengers again. All of them were staring straight ahead. Even the girl who'd been asleep. Even the whispering man who had gone silent. Jordan's reflection in the glass blinked, but he hadn't. Jordan stayed perfectly still, his spine stiff against the plastic seat. The reflection in the window had blinked again. Not in sync. Not even off by a little. A full second delayed, like the image was thinking about it before copying him. He turned away from the glass. The bus shuddered slightly, taking a hard left onto a street he didn't recognize. There was no road sign. Just a post with a single paper nailed to it, the words faded into Water Street nonsense. The street was lined with homes. Or maybe they used to be homes. Now, every single one had a forget sign posted on the lawn. Windows boarded. Roofs collapsed inward. Some looked melted, like wax left too long in the sun. He reached into his pocket and grabbed his phone again. Still 3:03 a.m. Still no service. The battery now said 0%, but the screen was still on. The lights inside the bus dimmed. The hum of the engine grew louder. It wasn't the sound of gears or tires. It was something else, lower, almost like a voice beneath machinery. Repeating something under its breath. Jordan leaned toward the front, listening. It almost sounded like, "Route complete. Route complete. Route complete." The woman behind him suddenly shifted. "Don't go forward," she whispered. Jordan froze. "What?" he asked without turning. "You're not ready. They'll know." He spun around. Her eyes were wide now, completely white. No iris. No pupil. Just two perfectly round eggshell voids staring at nothing. She began to hum again, louder this time. The bus took another sharp turn. Outside the window, the city had vanished. There were no more houses. No streets. Just a black expanse filled with distant, red blinking lights in the shape of a grid. Above them, stars. But not constellations, symbols. They formed letters. Only one Jordan could read clearly, exit. It pointed straight down. He stood, clutched the railing, and made his way toward the back of the bus. The teenage girl was now upright, her head tilted at a strange angle like someone had rearranged her neck too quickly. The businessman hadn't blinked in minutes. His finger kept tapping, tap, 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 same rhythm, always 3 beats. Then silence. Then repeat. The old man at the back had gone quiet. Jordan approached slowly. "Sir," he whispered. "Do you know what's happening?" The man didn't look up. But he opened his mouth. Inside were not teeth. Just row after row of tiny glass windows, like bus windows, stretching all the way down his throat. Jordan staggered back. The lights in the bus flickered. Then went out. When they came back on, there was no one else on the bus. Empty. Even the driver was gone. The engine still ran. The wheels still turned. But the seats were all vacant. He was alone. He walked quickly to the front. No driver. No reflection in the rearview mirror. No destination listed on the LED screen. Just a flashing red light where the route number used to be, transfer in progress. He pressed the stop button again. It let out a warped, descending tone. Like the sound was falling down a staircase. He pulled the emergency brake. The bus didn't slow. Jordan looked back out the window. Now the street signs had returned. But they were in a different language, twisting, looping symbols that looked vaguely like human handwriting filtered through a nightmare. He saw another billboard flash by, "You are now OFF route." Then another, "This vehicle will not return." Then a third, "Stay seated to avoid disintegration." He stumbled backward as the entire frame of the bus shifted. Not shook, shifted. The walls expanded. The aisle grew longer. His seat was now further back than it had been. Every step forward now took more effort, like walking uphill. He reached the rear emergency door. Pried at the handle. It clicked open. Behind it, not asphalt. Not sky. But a rotating tunnel of light and static, like the inside of a spinning television set. And in the center, floating in the void, was another version of him. Eyes closed. Hands folded. Mouth moving, repeating something silently. Jordan stared. The figure opened its eyes. They were his eyes. It reached out and touched the window between them. So did he. And then, the tunnel slammed shut. The door sealed. The red light above the driver's seat turned solid. The bus voice returned, "Transfer confirmed. Remain still." The lights inside the bus dimmed once more. Not just darker. Redder. Like the whole vehicle had dropped beneath the surface of a fading sun. Jordan backed away from the sealed door, heart racing. There was no wind. No motion beneath his feet. But the sense of movement remained, like falling, endlessly, in slow motion. He was about to call out again, to shout anything, when a voice whispered from behind him. "You're not supposed to be here yet." Jordan turned. No one. He took a step forward, toward the aisle. The empty seats blurred at the edges of his vision. Some looked older now, worn, frayed, stained with symbols that weren't there before. "Turn around," the voice said again. "Behind you." Jordan spun around. There, standing in the aisle near the back of the bus, was a boy. 8 or 9 years old. Dark hoodie. Face pale, but familiar, like a dream he'd forgotten as a child. He held a paper lunch bag in one hand, stained with something that looked like ink but moved like smoke. Jordan swallowed. "Where did you come from?" The boy didn't answer. He stepped to the side and patted the seat across from him. Jordan hesitated. "What is this? What's going on?" "This is your stop," the boy said calmly. "But you didn't take it." Jordan looked at the floor. The tiles below the boy's feet were different, wooden, not rubber. They looked like a hallway in a house, not a city bus. "You let it pass. Now you're in the in-between." "What in-between?" The boy tilted his head. "The place for people who don't make choices." Jordan sat down slowly. The seat groaned beneath him, colder than it should have been. The boy looked straight ahead. "You were supposed to make a decision. You didn't." "About what?" "About everything." He reached into the lunch bag and pulled out a key. Old, brass, bent slightly in the middle. Every time someone rides this bus, they're offered a stop. One that matters. Not just a street corner. A moment. A pivot. I didn't see any moment. The boy smiled sadly. "You did. You just didn't look at it." The bus turned again, this time slower. Outside, the scenery had changed. Not streets anymore, just doorways. Dozens of them. Floating in space. Each one opening to a different place. A classroom. A funeral. A wedding reception. An empty hospital waiting room. The doors opened and closed at random, sometimes revealing silhouettes. Sometimes just light. Sometimes nothing. Jordan stood again. "I don't want to stay on this thing." "Then you'll have to choose now," the boy said. He pointed down the aisle. There was now a stairway where the driver's seat used to be. It spiraled upward into total black. "You can climb," said the boy. "But if you do, you can't come back." "Back to what?" "The loop. The route. The world where no one notices they're not moving." Jordan hesitated. "What happens if I stay?" The boy stood. "Then eventually, someone else will take your place. And you'll become part of the route." He gestured to the humming woman's empty seat. Now, there was a shape there again. A figure slumped in her same position. It was Jordan. Eyes closed. Breathing slowly. Mouth just slightly open, as if dreaming mid-sentence. "That's not real." "It will be. Unless you choose." The boy started to walk away, into the darkened back of the bus. Jordan called after him. "Wait, what's your name?" The boy stopped. "Names don't come with you here. But if you ever get out?" "Mine's written on the back of the last seat." He vanished into shadow. Jordan turned, ran to the rear of the bus, scanning seat after seat. Nothing. Nothing. Then one name. Carved deeply into plastic with something sharp, Miller. He froze. That was his name. The lights flickered. The announcement returned. Transfer finalized. Exit now or remain. Jordan turned back to the spiral stairway. The key the boy had held was now in the seat beside him. He grabbed it. It was warm. He took one step onto the stairs. The doors of the bus began to close. He climbed. Jordan climbed slowly. Each step was a different texture beneath his feet. Tile. Then carpet. Then glass. Then gravel. The spiral stairs seemed endless, curving through a space that pulsed gently, like the inside of a living thing. There were no handrails. No sound except the echo of his own breath. And that strange hum, softer now, following him upward. About 20 steps in, a voice whispered from somewhere above. "You're almost out." It was his own voice. Softer. Tired. He paused. Looked down. The bus was gone. Not smaller, gone. Only stars below. And the faint outline of the billboard with his painted face, slowly turning in place. At the top of the stairs was a doorway. It wasn't ornate. It looked exactly like the door to his old apartment. The number 17C was etched in silver. He reached for the knob. Cold. He turned it slowly. And stepped inside. It was his apartment. Or something trying to be. The couch was the same, ripped cushion and all. His favorite hoodie was thrown over the back. But the TV displayed nothing but static. His photos were on the walls. Except in each one, his face was missing. Blurred out. Scratched. Or replaced entirely with the image of the boy from the bus. He walked to the kitchen. The sink was full of water, rippling gently. The fridge hummed, but didn't open. On the table sat a phone. Old. Rotary dial. But glowing faintly red where the receiver met the base. It rang. Once. Then stopped. He picked it up anyway. A voice answered immediately. "You've chosen the climb." Jordan said nothing. This was your moment. You missed it before. But you caught it now. What is this place? It's the pause before the return. Or the end. Depending on the choice. The voice clicked. Mechanical. Like it wasn't real, just a memory being played back. You were stuck in your life. You never jumped. Never left. Never said what needed to be said. Jordan swallowed hard. So now you'll be given the chance to reroute. The voice faded. A tone played. 3 soft beeps. Then silence. The lights in the room dimmed and shifted, no longer warm and yellow, but cool and blue, like the inside of the bus again. Jordan stepped back into the living room. A new door had appeared where the hallway used to be. This one was plain white. No number. Just a single symbol drawn in ash, infinity. He placed the key from the bus into a slot just below it. The door clicked. Swung open. Inside was not a room. It was a platform. Suspended in space. And ahead, the bus. Not the same one. This was newer. Shinier. Empty. The sign above it read, Route Infinity, Final Transfer. Jordan stepped onto the platform. The bus doors opened on their own. Inside, every seat had a nameplate. Names he didn't know. Except one. The last row. Jordan M. He walked to the back. Saturday. This time, there were no mirrors. No humming passengers. No driver. But as soon as he sat down, the door sealed. A voice crackled to life, transfer complete. The windows filled with light. Images. Moments. Choices. Things he remembered. Things he'd forgotten. Moments he never knew he'd missed. A smile he didn't return. A phone call he ignored. An alley he almost turned down. A girl he never chased. Then a final image, a bus stop. Jordan, standing still. The bus pulling away. The caption below read, "You watched it leave." Suddenly, everything went dark. Then quiet. Then warm. He opened his eyes to find himself standing on the sidewalk. Right where he had been before it all started. The city was normal. The lights were real. His phone buzzed. 9:53 p.m. He looked around. The Route 32 bus was just pulling up. He stepped toward it. Then stopped. He looked across the street. There, barely visible, was a flickering old neon sign for a tiny bookstore he'd passed 100 times and never entered. In the window, a help wanted sign. Jordan exhaled, smiled, and walked toward the store instead.
The nowhere signal will return tomorrow. Until then, sleep light.